Welcome back to another deep dive. And today, folks, we were talking about something pretty wild, hyena birth.
Yeah.
So when I say hyena birth, what comes to mind?
Well, I think of the classic Disney movie Lion King, right?
Right.
The hyenas are kind of these goofy, cackling villains.
Right, yeah, like sidekicks almost.
Exactly. But the reality of hyena birth is it's far from Disney.
Yeah. It's not a laughing matter.
No, not at all. It's actually one of the most brutal and kind of fascinating examples of evolution out there.
So why don't we start with the basics for anyone who may not be familiar with hyenas. What are we dealing with here? Like, what makes them so unique?
Okay, so hyenas are these incredibly intelligent social carnivores, and they live in these complex societies dominated by females.
Really?
Yeah, they're matriarchal.
Huh.
And it's this female dominance that's actually tied to their very unusual anatomy. Specifically, we're talking about their reproductive system.
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting, because I've heard about this. Like, female hyenas have this thing called a pseudopenis, right?
You got it. That's right.
What is that exactly?
So basically, it's an elongated clitoris. It looks and functions a lot like a male penis. So they urinate, mate, and even give birth through this organ.
Whoa, hang on. They give birth through that.
Yep.
That sounds incredibly difficult and painful.
It is. It's extremely risky for both the mother and the cub.
So how does that even work? I mean, how does a cub pass through something that's essentially designed for mating?
Well, the pseudopenis is actually quite narrow and inflexible. So the cubs have to squeeze through this very tight passage.
Ouch.
Yeah, and it often tears during the process, causing serious injury to the mother.
Oh, my God.
And on top of that, the birth canal itself is really long and convoluted.
So the cub has a long way to go.
Right. And that means a high risk of the cub suffocating during birth.
So I have to ask, like, what's the survival rate? It can't be very high, can it?
Unfortunately, you're right. Especially for first-time mothers, the mortality rate is shockingly high. Something like 60% of firstborns don't make it.
60%. Wow. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that. Like, why would a system like this even evolve in the first place? It seems so counterintuitive.
You would think so, right? But remember, we're talking about evolution. It's all about survival of the fittest. And in the hyena world, being a tough, aggressive female is key.
So how does a difficult birth equal a tough female? I don't quite get the connection.
Well, it all comes down to testosterone. Female hyenas have extraordinarily high levels of testosterone. In fact, they're even higher than males.
No kidding.
Yeah. And these high levels are thought to be responsible for a lot of their characteristics. Their larger size, their aggressive behavior, even the development of the pseudopenis.
So it's like a trade-off. They get all these benefits from the testosterone, but it comes at the cost of this incredibly risky birth process.
Exactly. And some scientists believe that these high testosterone levels also lead to larger, more aggressive cubs.
Oh, so that's how it ties back into the survival of the pack. Like, tougher moms give birth to tougher cubs, making the whole clan stronger.
That's one theory. It's still being debated.
Of course, nothing in nature is ever simple, is it?
Absolutely not. But this idea that the benefits of high testosterone might outweigh the risks of this dangerous birth, it's definitely a compelling one.
I mean, it does make sense from an evolutionary standpoint. If it wasn't working, it probably would have disappeared by now, right?
You'd think so. But there's still so much we don't know about why this system persists. It's one of those mysteries that keeps scientists scratching their heads.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Right.
You know, it's this reminder that we still have so much to learn about the natural world. There are all these incredible adaptations out there that we're just beginning to understand.
Right. And hyenas are just one example.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. This whole thing is painful, dangerous, and frankly, a bit bizarre.
I agree.
But it also reflects this really intricate interplay between anatomy, behavior, and evolution.
Definitely. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, imagine what other mysteries are still out there waiting to be uncovered.
Exactly. So much to explore. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep exploring the world around you. And remember, there's always something new to discover.